In a galaxy full of chaos and questionable life choices, our favorite band of misfit heroes are back, and they're facing their toughest challenge yet: dysfunctional families. Meet Peter Quill, aka Star-Lord, the universe's most lovable screwball, now tasked with solving the greatest mystery of all: fatherhood. When Ego, a smooth-talking celestial dad with cosmic-level daddy issues, shows up claiming he wants father-son bonding, Peter faces the ultimate identity crisis. Does he embrace his newfound cosmic heritage, or stick with the blue-skinned, arrow-whistling space pirate Yondu, the tough-love stepdad he never knew he needed? Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 isn't just about saving the universe again. It's about navigating family drama, managing bruised egos, literally, and learning that sometimes the most heroic thing you can do is tolerate your wildly imperfect family. In a galaxy obsessed with perfection, our ragtag team proves that sometimes chaos, loud arguments, and embarrassing dads might just be the secret sauce to being an awesome hero. This Father's Day, prepare to laugh, cry, and cringe as the Guardians discover the hilarious, heartfelt truth. Family isn't just who you're stuck with, it's who you choose to put up with. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. The one where Luke finds out Vader's his father.
Oh, hi, Mark. So why specifically project management and leadership?
Because that's what the book is about.
Why is the book about that?
It's a made-up tale.
7 sacred lessons from the School of Hard Knocks.
This one was invented by a writer.
I learned the hard way. Actually, it was a good learning experience.
It's a total fabrication. It never happened.
It's the Hard Knock University podcast, where real talk meets real lessons, and we all graduate with honors in the School of Life.
Wretched, isn't it?
Calling all musicians and industry pros. Do you want to turn your hard knocks into breakthroughs? Well, Season 2 of the Hard Knock University podcast is proud to be sponsored by SMG Academy, the ultimate music industry mentorship platform founded by 20-year veteran Mark Sebi. SMG Academy delivers real-world training from touring strategies to publishing secrets straight from the trenches of the Texas music scene. Whether you're an artist, a manager, a songwriter, it doesn't matter. SMG's courses and community will fast-track your success. Are you ready to level up? Visit smgacademy.online and use code HKU2025 for 15% off of your enrollment. SMG Academy, where hustle meets harmony. Hey, Hard Knockers. Welcome to a special Father's Day edition of the Hard Knock University podcast. We're thrilled to have you here to celebrate dads, mentors, and father figures everywhere. Before we jump in, do us a solid like, share, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell so you never miss out. Joining us today is the amazing Jayvon Burke, host of the Fatherhood Exclusive Podcast. He's here to deep dive into fatherhood, leadership, and his inspiring new book, Lead the Way, our featured book of the week. And stick around to the end. I've got a few heartfelt fatherhood reflections of my own to share. All right, now, a quick note about the interview itself. It was recorded about a month ago. In it, we discuss my stepfather a little bit. I said some kind of mean things. Since then, last week, Joe died. And truth be told, I'm not going to recant anything that I said. I stand by everything that I said. It was the truth. It's my truth, and it's out there for everybody. And like I said, I don't regret what I said. And at the end of this podcast, I've got a little segment where I'm going to go a little deeper into some of that. So stick around. This is all from the heart. Happy Father's Day. Let's get into it. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us on the Hard Knock University podcast. Today, we're diving deep into the leadership and project management skills of villains like Ego, and anti-heroes like Yondu, the Sovereign, and Aisha, as well as our hero, Peter Quill, all from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And it's the Father's Day episode. So we're also going to talk a little bit about the fatherhood aspect, and who better to join us in this conversation than the host of the Fatherhood Exclusive Podcast, Jay Burke. Jay, thanks for joining us on the show.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you for having me. Shout out to everybody, man, who's tuning in to the Hard Knock University podcast. It's phenomenal. And I love what you're doing, brother.
Thank you so much. Likewise, man. Tell us a little bit about the book that's coming out. By the time this comes out, the book will already be on shelves, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the book is called Lead the Way, 20 Principles Fathers Must Adopt to Effectively Lead the Family. And I've been working on it for about, I want to say, a year and some change, man, because I've been a father since I was 14 years old, and I have 9 kids, and I've been through everything, or I shouldn't say everything, but I've been through a lot when it comes to regrowing and developing myself as a father and as a leader within my household. I've made a ton of mistakes, and I've learned some things along the way that I feel like guys need a way to understand these principles that not only I stand on, but I feel like it's pivotal for us to be able to lead effectively in our home and in our community. So I dug in on this book, and I was like, let's get to it. Let's put out this information, because the more fathers get involved in our communities, in our household, around the world, the more you'll see change. And so that's what it is, man. I'm excited about the book, and definitely go to fatherhoodexclusive.com and pick it up. And I appreciate you guys for sure.
100%, man. I'm excited about the book as well. The podcast is great. Everybody, if you're not listening to Jay's podcast, the Fatherhood Exclusive Podcast, be sure to check that on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, everywhere where you get your podcasts. Also, we've got our producer, Seth Caples, joining us in the studio again. Seth, glad to have you here. Is Ethan all right?
Yeah. Just found out my son slipped at school and got a minor cut. Probably doesn't need stitches, but is probably concussed.
That's unfortunate. I think we've all been concussed before. That's at that age where it happens.
Yeah. We thought it would
How
happen
old is he?
in football. He just turned 13.
Okay. Oh, yeah, definitely. My daughter got a concussion about a month ago playing flag football for her school. And yeah, it was a whole thing. So
Scary.
Got to take care of them kiddos. Let's get into it. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 came out in May 2017. The top song on the billboards that week was I'm the One by DJ Khaled featuring Justin Bieber, Quavo, Chance the Rapper, and Lil Wayne. Debuted at number 1 on May 20th. The top movie was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, grossing over $146 million its opening weekend. The top TV show was The Big Bang Theory. The big major event in the news on May 9th, President Trump fired FBI Director James Comey, leading to significant political controversy and discussions about the Russia investigation, which there's been so much controversy since then that we've totally forgot about that. Major births, Jackson Roloff, son of Zach and Tori Roloff from the reality TV show Little People, Big World, was born on May 12th. And in major deaths, Chris Cornell took his life, the lead singer of the band Soundgarden, as well as Audioslave, on May 18th. I remember really being bummed out by Chris Cornell.
Yeah, anybody who was privy to him in the music world was sad about that.
yeah, it's such a tragic loss. It's anything that happens like that is devastating to his community, to the band's community, and definitely to the family for sure.
Yeah. I think that was shortly after we had lost Robin Williams to similar circumstances.
Mhm.
And I don't think so people are like afraid to talk about suicide. Nobody wants to be bummed out. Nobody wants to talk about things that suck and are depressing. But in a world where especially teen suicide is at an all-time high, especially in girls, it's something that needs to be talked about, man.
Absolutely.
And we got a lot on our plate today, so maybe this isn't the best time to get real deep into that topic, but it's definitely something that I've wrestled with. And I know everybody at some point in their life wrestles with it. If they haven't, then they haven't lived an interesting enough life, in my opinion.
Yeah. And then too is I'm not ashamed to admit it. I've made 2 suicide attempts over the course of my life, and God changed me in a major way. Thankfully, he delivered me from that type of spirit, but it's rough, man, just dealing with all the things that you deal with on a daily basis inside your head. And especially as men, we don't feel like we can talk to anybody about it without being judged, without being criticized, without feeling like, oh, we're going to take you down from that pedestal. You can no longer lead, or you can no longer be the head of this family if, you know, you're dealing with that type of thing. And so we typically internalize it and don't talk about it. And then it gets worse. So I encourage all of you guys, especially the men and women, especially if you have kids, if you need to talk to somebody, go talk to somebody, no matter who it is. Find somebody that you can confide in and talk to, because it's real and it's happening day by day.
100%. There's resources, there's hotlines and such. But I'll tell you what, man, anybody listening to this, if you feel like you need somebody to talk to and nobody's listening, I'm easy to find on all of the social medias and everything. Send me a DM. Let's talk. All right, moving on. So this movie, when it first came out, I remember being super excited about it because the first one was so good, man. I was a comic book kid, but this comic book never made it onto my radar. And so whenever I first heard about the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, I was like, dude, Marvel just like digging up the obscure stuff, thinking this is going to suck, but it didn't. It was great. And so I was super excited about it. James Gunn, peak James Gunn. The dude was making great movies at the time. And this one certainly landed in one of his best of all time, for sure. So the way that we do this is we just go through the synopsis off of IMDb and then just discuss it as we go. And then at the end, we'll rate the leadership and project management skills of our 4 teams. I've basically got Peter Quill, Ego, Yondu, and Aisha from the Sovereign. And I've created like little business plans, so to speak, for each of them. But starting at the top, the movie opens up in 1980. Peter's father, Ego, visited Earth and fell in love with Peter's mom, Laura, played by Laura Haddock. And the soundtrack, man, the soundtrack. Our first song, Brandy by Looking Glass, kicks off. And it's so good, so good.
It's a
Classic.
huge part of the story, too, because it's called back to many times. There's a scene where maybe I should go chronologically through the movie.
Yeah, so I wrote down like the songs as they pop up so that we can discuss them as they pop up. But
That's exactly
Brandy's
how
our
I
first
did it.
one.
Yes. Yeah. And
we call back to it later in the movie.
Probably there's 2 super significant songs in this movie. That one's the most significant song.
Yeah.
And I wanted to point out that all of the soundtrack, all of the music in this movie is what's called diegetic, which means that all of the music is sourced from the world of the story, like from a car stereo or a Zune, which we see later on in the movie.
Like the characters are actually listening to the music.
Yeah, which is great because it speaks to what the character's going through in that moment in time.
Yeah.
It's what they're listening to.
Yeah, I think that Quentin Tarantino was the first to really dive into that style of storytelling.
That's another great point. It's a great segue into one of the things they did with this movie, Gunn and Tyler Bates, who did this movie, it was very similar to the way that Quentin Tarantino does movies, in that James Gunn already had the soundtrack in mind, right?
Yeah.
And structured the movies, not structured it, but similar to Quentin Tarantino, made the scenes.
That's
around.
exactly how Quentin Tarantino makes them. He comes up with the soundtrack first. He writes while listening to music, and he'll have a song on the radio, and that's giving him inspiration for what he's actually writing about. And then whenever the movie actually gets made, he gets the rights to all of those songs. They're a big part of the actual movie. And so it sounds like James Gunn and Tyler Bates did the same thing here. And I love it. I love it. As a music lover, I'm a fan. So then skipping up to 2014. Oh, the Dairy Queen. That's just there for nostalgia. As a Texan, we have Dairy Queens everywhere. It was fun to see a Dairy Queen.
And his mother, Meredith, is Southern, very obviously by her accent.
And in that scene, we get our first hint at Ego's plan. He shows her the plant, and says soon it will be all across the universe. But that's all we get. But we're already getting a hint at what he's going for.
That's really the meat and potatoes of his plan, though.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. For his business plan, I have that his leadership style is autocratic and visionary, but he lacks empathy. But his business plan is to establish a monopolistic enterprise aiming to homogenize markets under one brand.
Yeah,
That's
I love that.
You like that?
Yeah.
Then we move ahead to 2014, and Peter Quill, the half human, half celestial leader of the Guardians of the Galaxy, who was abducted from Earth as a child and raised by a group of alien thieves and smugglers called the Ravengers. We have Gamora, a member of the Guardians, and an orphan from an alien world who seeks redemption for her past crimes. She was trained by Thanos to be his personal assassin. We have Drax, a member of the Guardians and highly skilled warrior in search for vengeance against Thanos for his family's slaughter. Rocket, a member of the Guardians who is genetically modified raccoon bounty hunter and mercenary, who is also a master of weapons and military tactics. And Baby Groot, a member of the Guardians who is a tree-like humanoid and the accomplice of Rocket. These guys are renowned as the Guardians of the Galaxy. They've saved the galaxy once, and now they've got their little I have their business plan as to form a consultancy that leverages diverse talents to solve complex problems. Led by Peter Quill, his leadership style is collaborative and adaptive, and he leads by example.
Except that this particular crew would never form a business plan.
There's a scene where Rocket straight up says, whenever he starts to realize that they're saving the galaxy again, he says, man, you know how much we can charge if we have 2 of these under our belt? Rocket's on it. He's got a business mindset.
That's great.
Yeah, because he's thinking about what he can get out of it.
Yeah.
It's the MO. What can I get out of this thing?
Yeah. So the Guardians are this real ragtag group, which is in stark contrast to both the Sovereign and Ego. There's a lot of the symbolism behind the Sovereign and both Ego is their pursuit for perfection.
Yeah.
I did a little deep dive. The Sovereign has this obsession with genetic purity. You get it almost immediately. Like the Queen Aisha she's perfect. She's solid gold. She's untouched. She makes it clear that she's a virgin. There's that whole discussion about, show you our ways. You know what I mean? Where he's flirting with her.
Yeah.
And then she almost immediately wants to know about Peter's heritage and makes it clear that he's unpure. What is he? I wrote down the quote.
I think it's also important to note that everyone you just mentioned, Ego, the Guardians, the Sovereign, the common denominator with all these people and groups is an ego.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
The Sovereign represent a society that's striving for flawlessness. Their citizens are genetically engineered for perfection. They don't procreate the way that the mammals do, or even birds for that matter. They have these cocoons and they genetically engineer people. Their golden appearance and disdain for imperfection mirror historical fascist ideologies, notably the Third Reich and their emphasis on Aryan supremacy. And then you have Ego, who embodies the dangers of unchecked ambition and the desire to mold the universe in one's image. His plan is to terraform planets so that they reflect his God complex, and completely disregarding the autonomy and diversity of life on said planets. And he values his God complex over love for his own son. And then Peter Quill and the Guardians are completely counter to that. These guys, Quill's half human, half celestial. And so the symbolism, he's got this strength that is found in hybridity and diversity. And then the Guardians, they're this motley crew of misfits. And that diversity challenges the notion that perfection equates to superiority. And it's a great moral, in my opinion.
What I think is interesting is that I think their race to perfection, or their chase for perfection, in a way highlights their imperfection.
Sure, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the way that they create, the way that they procreate, if you will, highlights the fact that they have imperfections. And they're just trying to hide it or mask it. So I think that's very interesting, the way that they play that out.
It's a great point. It's also a futile goal, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sure. But yeah, like what kind of baggage are you holding on to in the back of your head that you're trying to perfect the race? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And what are they going off of? What are they going off of to think, okay, this is what perfect looks like? Are they looking inward? Because it's definitely not what it is. So
They're certainly not. They're certainly not.
Interesting.
Yeah. Whereas the Guardians do. Guardians are emotional.
Yeah.
And they're big on friendship and family.
Yeah.
So that opening scene is a ton of fun. We get our next song, Mr. Blue Sky, by the Electric Light Orchestra.
Yeah, I want to point out that every scene in this movie where there's a battle or a fight, it's to a happy, upbeat, fun song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is ironic and great. It plays very well.
We get our space squid dragon hybrid that's eating the herpulary batteries. That's a fun monster. And we get our first touch it like video game thing. Their battle with this space squid dragon it's very like boss fight video gamey. You know what I mean? And then you get Drax, who's, his skin is too thick on the outside. I'm going to have to get him from the inside. And then Quill mansplains to Gamora that it's the same thickness from the inside as the outside.
Yeah. By the way, I know you don't know this, but I'm sure you have at least some listeners that are video gamers like me. But the Guardians of the Galaxy video game was phenomenal. It was short, but I think that's a good thing. And it perfectly embodied everything you just described and everything that the movie was about, where you could switch from character to character at any given time, and you could all coordinate together, and you could, as one character, command the other characters, and you were fighting sometimes little stupid things and other times big giant monsters, and it was good stuff.
Yeah, and it's a testament to the adaptation of the times that we're in, because you used to get a lot of movies. Summertime was movie season, and there was a lot of them in the theaters. And then you had Blockbuster, where you'd go rent a bunch of them every weekend. And as we've switched to the streaming era, you're not getting you're not getting any of these smaller budget fun comedies and stuff. You're getting the occasional huge big budget movie, because they're really trying to maximize how much money they make in the theater, because there's just no money to be made in the streaming game. And any musician listening to this knows exactly what I'm talking about. But it's the same for movies. And so in creating this movie so that the video game is going to do well also, you're maximizing your earning potential. So it's a good move.
Absolutely.
Marvel's done a great job with what they've been doing.
Marvel was already kicking out some great video games before they started the MCU. And the MCU really just brought up more opportunity for them to really dominate in that space.
You know what's interesting? This is not to cut you off, but it's a random fun fact, right? I was on a training mission. I was in the infantry and the army, and I was on a training mission one time, and we were in our strikers about to go on a road march or foot march or whatever you want to call it to set up an ambush for a different unit, right? And we played the same song in our strikers that over the radio that group was dancing to and listening to while the whole battle was going on. We played that in the strikers to prepare ourselves mentally for what was about to happen. So it's funny that you brought up how the music was happy in every battle scene, because that's essentially what we also do in the United States Army when we're prepping for a mission or we're doing a training mission and stuff like that, because we want to get our brains, how should I say this? We want to get our brains diluted to what we're about to do, if you will. So it was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Desensitized to, the idea
absolutely.
that at some point you might have to kill somebody.
I think that may be some of the, at least in part, some of the intent in the movie too, because we're watching something that's ridiculous. It's so fantastical. Heroes in space and a talking raccoon, or he doesn't like to be called a raccoon, but having like silly, fun, happy songs played over ridiculousness. It sends the message, don't take this too seriously.
Yeah, I dig it. Moving on, Aisha, played by Elizabeth Debicki, the Golden High Priestess and the leader of the Sovereign People, a genetically engineered race who are gold and perfect and wanting to be physically and mentally impeccable. Leader of the Sovereign race has the Guardians protect valuable batteries from an interdimensional monster in exchange for Gamora's estranged sister Nebula, played by Karen Gillan, an adopted daughter of Thanos who was raised with Gamora as siblings, and a reluctant member of the Guardians, who was caught attempting to steal the batteries. The Guardians stop the attack and kill the beast when Drax realizes that the hide of the beast is too thick to cut from the outside. He allows himself to be swallowed so he can cut the beast from the inside. That does not work, and Gamora finds a weak spot on the skin and runs the sword from there to the entire length of its body, killing the beast and freeing Drax. The Guardians leave with Nebula. And we have that scene I was talking about with Aisha kind of calling out Quill's heritage and calling his hybridity particularly reckless. And Rocket straight up calls her out. I love Rocket.
Rocket, granted, he is a raccoon, even though he doesn't like to be called it, he is a raccoon, but that's how raccoons are. Like, I don't know if you guys have any experience around raccoon and what they do and how they act, but definitely reckless behavior, definitely animals who pick and play. I like to tell this story on my podcast about how in my old apartment, there used to be I used to call him neighborhood raccoon because I used to always see him early in the morning, 5 o'clock when I used to leave for work. And they'd just be playing with the neighbor's dogs, like trying to wake them up. So the neighbor had a Chihuahua that was right behind me, and they would go to the balcony door and get the dog all riled up and barking, and the lady would turn on the light and the raccoons would jump back into the bush. And so the lady would fuss at the dog. And then once she went back to bed, they would hop back out to get the dog all riled up again. It was hilarious. But that's exactly how they are in real life. It's funny.
Sure, yeah. I used to have this raccoon he lived in this tree by my house and would jump off the tree onto my roof and then climb down the porch to where we used to feed the cats. And he'd eat the cat food. And we embraced it. Eat the cat food. It's fine. We have plenty. But he stopped visiting us. And then, there's this fun story that I read about this raccoon that you have these cookie cutter neighborhoods where they build the same house, the same floor plan over and over, and they put them all next to each other in the same neighborhood. This raccoon figured out how to break in through an attic vent. And since they're all built the same, he realized that he could do it in every home. So this raccoon went on a burglary spree across his neighborhood, breaking into every home and then raiding the pantries and shit.
That's
I was going to say that they're also thieves, just like Rocket.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Rocket. It's crazy.
So after the Sovereign find that Rocket stole some batteries for himself, the Sovereign attacks the Guardian ship with a fleet of drones. The drones are destroyed by a mysterious figure, but the Guardians crash land on a nearby planet named Burherd. The figure reveals himself as Quill's father, Ego, played by Kurt Russell. Great casting. He invites Quill, Gamora, and Drax to his home planet while Rocket and Groot remain behind to repair the ship and guard Nebula. Again, we get into the video game part of it with all of the ships from the Sovereign are drones, and they're not in them. They're in this big room where they're all lined up, and it's just nothing but arcade noises. And then they go into the quantum asteroid field, which is the idea of a quantum asteroid field is great. And that's very video gamey as well. This movie really opens up with, man, I can't wait till this video game comes out. If you're into video games, I can't play video games because they will ruin my life. I have an addictive personality, and I'll look up and be like, oh, the sun's coming up. I better stop playing this video game.
Yeah, I've done that. I thought that those little pods that the Sovereign were using were very much so resembled those little pods in arcades from the 80s and stuff. Yeah.
And I loved that after all of them are taken out, there's this one guy left. He's following them. He's right on their ass.
And they all crowd around him like in an arcade.
All excited.
Yeah. They're all rooting
he's
for
trying
him.
To beat the high score.
Yeah. And then as soon as he dies, they're like, you suck.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Definitely some realism in that for sure.
Also, fun fact, you mentioned Kurt Russell and great casting. Did you know? I always love this section of the podcast. Matthew McConaughey was offered Ego.
Really?
Yes. Wow. And turned it down for The Dark Tower. And he regrets that because The Dark Tower kind of flopped a bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know that he regrets that. I might have made that part up.
I would for sure.
But Kurt Russell was great casting. He nailed this
Listen,
role.
A part of Ego is to be charming and charismatic. And Kurt Russell is charming and charismatic.
Yeah. But I would like to see Matthew McConaughey play a villain. I don't know if...
Now I'm thinking about if he's played a villain.
Was he a villain in the Dark Tower? I hadn't seen that movie.
Me either. I think that's the point.
That might be the point. Drax has,
because it was off brand, maybe.
Yeah.
People get
It may
stuck
have
into
only
it
been
like
a
a
Netflix
certain
movie.
role for so long, and it's hard to see them play anything else except for their role.
Yeah.
yeah. And some actors are adverse to playing villains. They want to be the good guy. I don't think Tom Cruise has ever played a bad guy except for Les Grossman in Tropic Thunder.
I would imagine Matthew McConaughey would love to play a villain.
Drax has this hilarious line about when he sees his wife for the first time, everybody was dancing and she didn't move a muscle.
Which it makes you wonder, is that why Groot doesn't dance whenever Drax is looking at him?
I don't know.
You know what I'm saying? Because maybe he wants Drax to like him.
He attacks Drax on multiple occasions.
Little kids attack you sometimes.
But he tells Quill, you need to find a woman who is pathetic like you.
Yeah. I love how
so
Drax
serious
is
about it,
actually, Drax is actually the wise man in this movie sometimes.
Sometimes.
Like, I got to segue back. You were talking earlier.
Because I too am incredibly humble.
What was it? You were talking about how, what is it that Drax says, man? He says, only ugly people. What is it?
You'll have to Google it and circle back to it.
In the end, he says rich or beautiful people never know who to trust. And the idea of what he's saying is ugly people have it better because they can get along and love each other. Beautiful people never know who to trust.
Man, I missed that altogether, but that's very poignant and goes back to the whole sovereign's obsession with beauty and perfection.
Right. What I was getting at was like that ragtag group, the Guardians, they're all broken and emotionally scarred, but that's how and why they're so good together. Whereas the Sovereign, they're all beautiful and perfect and they all get blown up by the Guardians.
Yeah. And we have the fruit joke. When we did the Dr. Evil episode, we talked about Mike Myers' writing it, where he'll like hit this joke and punch it hard and then go back and keep reminding you, remember that joke that I punched you real hard right at the very beginning? And it doesn't hit quite as good as this damn fruit joke. This is where it's done, where they're like, it's not right. It's not right. They harken back to it a couple of times until finally she has it. She takes a bite, spits it out. It's not right. Perfect punch. Great way. You set the joke up, but you don't punch it yet. Then you remind people a little while later of the joke. And then finally you're like, hey, remember that joke? Here's the punchline. That's the right way to do it, man.
I agree. I think it was better writing than it was delivery. I think shouldn't say that because I'm no.
That's what I'm saying. It's the writing. Mike Myers delivers jokes great, but there's no nuance to it.
I guess what I'm saying is I wish Homegirl Gillen would have delivered that joke the punchline rather a little better. But who am I to
I thought
say?
it was great.
I'm not an actor.
I want to mention that whenever Rocket and Quill are in the spaceship and they're like, we need the best pilot in the galaxy. And then they start arguing about who's the best pilot in the galaxy. And they start switching back and that is a weakness with the Guardians, is they don't do a good job of setting up clear roles. Who's in charge of what? And that's always an important thing in any organization, that everybody understands their roles.
Their ego gets in the way.
100%. Yeah.
Pun intended.
That's human. That's a part of being human. Ego, dealing with egos. No pun intended. Aisha hires Yondu Undanta. I Googled this and it sounds like an African name. It is not. They didn't get there's no, I figured surely there's some kind of tie to some African hero or something. No.
Just alien.
No, they just made it up.
Just alien.
But Michael Rooker's great. He's always been a B-list actor, and this movie really brought him back into that A-list. Now he was just in
The Walking Dead.
Oh, sure. That's true. Yeah, The Walking Dead did help a lot. But he was just in The Righteous Gemstones. He's on that show, that Western, that's like doing a 4-part series that's struggling. They might not get through all 4 parts. But he plays like an Irish guy in that, and it's really good. But Aisha hires Yondu, a blue-skinned buccaneer who is the leader of the Ravengers, a fatherly figure to Quill and member of the Guardians, and his crew who have been exiled from the greater Ravenger community for child trafficking. to recapture the Guardians. The Ravager community is led by Staker, who has banished Yondu. Yondu claims that he didn't know that he was being used for trafficking kids. I find that hard to believe given the amount of skeletons in Ego's closet. You know what I mean?
So when I watched the movie over and over, which I didn't mind, I love this movie, but I gathered that he didn't know that Ego was killing the children. When he found out that Ego was killing the children, he damn sure wasn't going to give Peter to him, because at that moment he loved Peter. He wouldn't admit that because of his ego.
Yeah, we can give him the benefit of the doubt on that one.
He explains it in the movie.
We get another song, Lakeshore Drive by Aliota Hayes Jeremiah,
which is a fun song. You could, some people do think that it's like a code for LSD. Lakeshore Drive.
Yeah.
LSD.
Similar to the Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds thing.
Which is fun because don't they play that song whenever they're doing the 700 jumps through?
Could be.
Like their faces are morphing.
No, not yet, because we're not to that part of the plot yet.
Okay, maybe not.
So when Aisha comes, she's got the carpet scene. She's perfect. She can't even touch the ground of this planet that's not her planet. So they have rolling out this carpet that she can walk on because, you know, everything and everybody disgusts her. Taserface plants his first seeds of mutiny. They have that little scuffle and he first starts planting that seed. And you have the scene where Drax straight up thought Yondu was Quill's father. He's completely surprised that Yondu's not his biological father, which is hilarious.
Yeah. His character is so great because he's such an idiot, but at the same time says the wisest things sometimes.
Yeah. It's that Jim Carrey movie, Me, Myself, and Irene, when he's got the little black children and completely oblivious that they're not actually his kids. In his mind, those are his kids.
Like your inner impulse, the things that you would think but not say out loud, and he just lets it fly.
Yeah. The Ravengers, led by Yondu, capture Rocket, but when Yondu hesitates to turn over Quill by refusing to reveal Quill's location to the Sovereign and instead taking Rocket's offer to taking the batteries and selling them on the open market, whom he raised. These are written by people on IMDb, and they're not always very well. Anyways, his Lieutenant Taserface leads a mutiny with the help of Nebula. Taserface imprisons Rocket and Yondu aboard Yondu's ship and executes his loyalists. Before that, we have the team splitting up, and the Chain from Fleetwood Mac plays.
Yeah, which is beautiful because at that moment, he's decided he's going to pursue Ego. And so you could view it as like he's metaphorically breaking the chain to his real family, which is the Guardians.
Yeah. And Quill has that great line. He says, "What is your goal here? To get everyone to hate you? Because it's working." Great line.
Yeah. Oh, another fun fact about The Chain by Fleetwood Mac is they recorded that song at a time when they were going through some nasty divorces.
Yep. And when Yondu's team shows up, we have a Rob Zombie cameo. That's fun. We talked about the fruit joke paying off. And Nebula lays out her plan. She takes leadership of the Ravengers. After she tricks Groot into freeing her. But her plan, she's all about killing Thanos. At some point, she's going to get out of there and go after Thanos.
In this movie, she wants to kill her sister.
Yeah.
Ultimately,
she's
she can't do it.
Thanos' approval.
Yes. Yeah. Which is great because it's great for this fatherhood theme because, you know, in the background story with Nebula and Gamora is that story of their father and it's two real fun dynamics because Nebula is, like you said, seeking approval from her father and going to extremes trying to kill her sister. Yeah. And then Gamora, who has gotten approval from her father, could care less about it. She's just trying to live her life, right?
Yeah.
So I just love that there's that secondary story in the background going on there.
Yeah, and you have the sibling rivalry, which is a very real thing. Not everybody gets along with their brother the way that you and I do.
Yeah, we've been through some times, right?
Sure, yeah.
I want to pause for a minute to highlight, especially for the fathers listening to this episode, right? Think about the dynamic and how you treat, especially if you have multiple children, right? How you treat one child versus how you treat the other child, right? Think about the lasting impact it may have if you're letting one child get away with certain stuff, but you're harder on the other child, or, you know, you're spending more child. Granted, I get that sometimes we have a natural bond with one. We're not going to say it out loud because nobody wants to admit that you have a favorite child, right? But sometimes you have a stronger bond with one of your children versus the other children. However, if you're not investing the same time that you are with one child, at least trying to establish a bond with the other child, at some point, it's going to become, what do you call it? It's going to become like a rebel type of thing. They're going to either do things to seek your approval, or they're going to do things to say, okay, it doesn't matter. I don't need your approval. And either way, it goes very bad. Trust me. I know from experience, it goes very bad. And that's how I was as a child. It felt like my sister was the favorite, and I didn't have my father in my life when I was younger. So I was like, okay, you know what? Bump this. I'm going to just do this and that to get attention, or to establish myself as a man as I thought I was when I was in a younger age. Maybe a reason why I had kids at 14. But anyways.
Yeah, I was a middle child, and our sister, my mom was super lenient with her. She could do whatever she wanted. She left the house at, I think, younger than 16 to move 14 to move in with her boyfriend, who she eventually married. And then Seth was the baby. So Seth was always protected.
I was the favorite. I was your sister. I was the favorite.
Yeah.
And Mark had to feel that.
And where they were super lenient with Cassie, they were very strict with us. And then our stepdad, Joe, would literally play me and Seth against each other. And just like Thanos plays Nebula and Gamora against each other, our stepdad, Joe, would do the same thing with us. It's a very real thing where parents, step-parents, even biological parents will play their kids against each other. And it's wrong. There's some unpacked trauma in there that they're not dealing with very well. And it leads them to make these poor decisions.
I find it that that happens more so with boys than it does with girls, because with boys, unfortunately, or even fortunately in some circumstances, we like to challenge boys in a way because we're looking at the future. Okay, this son is going to lead a family one day. This son is going to have to be a defender or protector. And so we're so hard on the boys, not thinking about the girls need to be just as strong, if not stronger, to be able to develop themselves and have self-defense and stuff like that, especially mentally. But we all throw it on the boys. Okay, you guys need to protect your sisters. You guys need to do this. You guys need to do that. Life skills and such. But we're not giving that same energy toward the girls. So that needs to be something that we also think about as fathers.
I feel that I've especially here recently been trying to figure out. I have a teenage boy, a 13-year-old boy, and a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old. And so that's fun. All three fun ages. But I'm trying to figure out, I know I need to raise strong girls like I would do my son. Strong, independent, in the way that I would do my son, but not so much in the way that I would do my son. I feel like the way that I go about it with my girls should be different because they're just different. So I'm trying to figure that out still. How do I approach it with my daughters? What I'm doing is affirmation.
I think an important piece to think is we are not the only parent. Some people have lost loved ones. Some people, the mother of the child may be unfit or whatever the case may be. So I understand that some people don't have the mother as a relevant factor. But for those of y'all who do, we have to understand that our role is to establish certain strengths, certain disciplines, definitely certain principles within our children. And then the mother's role is to establish that heartfelt empathy, that the part of the female to be feminine, right? But it can coexist. And I think too long we forget that the mother still plays her role. So regardless of how I approach teaching my daughters, because I have 5 sons and 4 daughters, So regardless of how I go about teaching my daughters how to be strong, how to be independent, how to be able to do mechanical things, right? Because too often we leave that alone because we're too far stuck in the traditional sense. But this day and age, they need to understand and learn those skills for times when they are alone or times they need to be independent in that factor. You don't want your daughter driving down the road and get a flat tire and not know how to fix it. And then they're dependent on somebody else who may or may not have their best interest at heart. So we have to teach them those skills, understanding that, okay, the mother needs to step in or has to step in to establish that femininity, to establish all the things that they need to be able to grow as a woman. Because we can't teach them how to be a woman, but we can also teach them the strength and the principles that we need to teach them. Same thing where we teach the boys.
Yeah. One of the books that I recommend heavily, not just for the project management aspect of it, but for the family aspect, the managing a family part of it, is Drop the Ball by Tiffany Dufu. And a lot of these books written by women that are about trying to get your husband to help out on the domestic front, just drag men. Whereas Drop the Ball is very much a love letter to her husband, who was from Ghana, and they met in college. He was a foreign exchange student, and in marrying him, the children are raised in Ghana with very strict gender roles. And so she had to navigate that. But she does a good job of discussing how society and advertising and stuff has really not just shaped the male-female domestic roles and expectations, and not just put unrealistic requirements on women in the family, but also on men, where what's expected of us is sometimes unrealistic. And at the end of the day, a marriage is a partnership. And if you don't both have equal buy-in, then what are you really doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's on me as a husband and father to step in and help out on the domestic front where my wife needs it. And on that same note, no woman wants to step into the role of her husband's mother. Sometimes some of us do need our wife to play mom a little bit with us. And it's unfortunate. We're conditioned by society like this. And until society really starts to shift, we're just playing the cards we're dealt. Yeah. On the sibling thing, I want to talk a little bit about this documentary that I recently watched called The Carters, Hurts to Love You. And it's about Aaron Carter and Nick Carter. Nick Carter is in Backstreet Boys. Aaron Carter was this young child that started a music hip hop career at a very young age. And as he got older, struggled to keep that going. And his parents really robbed him of all his wealth. So by the time he became his own man, he really didn't have all of the wealth that he had built up. But the documentary also talks about the rest of the siblings. There's, I think, 3, maybe 4 sisters that aren't really spoken about and are very much neglected by their parents because they're not pop stars. They're not their cash cow. And then you also have the parents playing the siblings against each other. It's a great documentary. It's heartbreaking, but it really is on topic on this whole parents playing siblings against each other. It's a real thing. It really is.
Absolutely a real thing. Unfortunately.
We have another great song, Southern Nights by Glenn Campbell. Southern Nights.
Another upbeat song.
Ego, a godlike celestial that manipulated the matter around his consciousness to form his home planet, explains that he projected a humanoid guise to travel the universe and discover a purpose, eventually falling in love with Quill's mother, Meredith. Ego hired Yondu to collect the young Quill after Meredith's death, but the boy was never delivered, and Ego has been searching for his son ever since. He teaches Quill to manipulate their celestial power. This is out of order. It already starts getting Nebula arriving. Nebula hadn't arrived yet. We have another great song, My Sweet Lord by George Harrison, the best Beatle.
That's controversial, but I agree.
Yeah.
But that's a great song for this moment because the song is about trying to build a more intimate relationship with God. And that is what Peter's doing. He's going to learn about his father.
Build a more intimate relationship with his father, who is a God. Yeah. Ego and Quill play catch.
That's fun, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fun scene.
Did you ever play catch with our stepfather?
Not that stuck in my memory. But there's a lot of stuff that I have erased from my memory regarding that man.
Yeah, me too.
Yondu
Yes.
Rocket having exercise and setting clear expectations with good directions when they're trying to tell Groot to go get the fin thing.
Yeah.
That's an important thing.
I want to speak on something real quick for the guys listening, for your inner self, because I find it very relatable on how Quill is a grown man, and yet the idea of playing catch with his dad, with his father, hit him. You know what I'm saying? It made him very emotional. And I lied to you not. About a month ago, I went up to Virginia to visit my dad and celebrate my birthday and my oldest son's birthday and my second oldest daughter's birthday. They have the same birthday, but different years, obviously. But my father, I was having a conversation with him and I was telling him how I wanted to take the boys fishing. And I have never been fishing before. I had never learned how to. And I honestly never had the time to invest into learning how to. I probably could figure it out. But anyways, he told me, he was like, yeah, I want to take you guys fishing. And I looked at him for a moment and I envisioned my inner child getting excited. I was like, really? And he was like, yeah, I love to take you guys fishing. I'll teach you how to do this. I had no idea what he was talking about because I don't know anything about fishing. But he was telling me about different things that he'll teach us. And my inner child got so excited and I got an emotion. I was like, dang, that's dope. I didn't know him when I was growing up. I didn't meet him until I think I met him after I had already enlisted. So I was like 19 years old. When I met him, I had already had, 3-4 kids by then. So I wanted to touch on that because I found it interesting how it hit Peter emotionally, and it can happen to us too. Like we don't lose that inner child. We might bury it after years of whatever we go through as men, but it's still there. So just something to highlight for you guys. But
I absolutely feel that and agree with you. I only just recently have realized what Peter Quill realized in the movie, which is he already had his family. He didn't need to go seek out his father. Like, I relate to that in that older me was always seeking out some sort of father figure or role model to latch onto. And then only recently have I realized I don't need to do that. I have a great family and great support system already. I don't need to seek out some sort of father figure.
Yeah, Father's Day is a double-edged sword for us because we don't have a dad. However, I'm dad now. I'm dad. Seth's dad. Threefold now. And so Father's Day has a completely different meaning where it used to be a depressing holiday. It was absolutely a bullshit holiday to me for a long time. But now that's my day. We have this family reunion that has honestly fallen apart. It used to be a big event every single summer, and we've gotten away from that. But the Caples wing of the family reunion has always been the black sheep part of the family reunion. And now I've come to think that it's on us to put that behind us and truck on forward and make the Caples wing the center. Forget about the rest of the family. The Caples, the ones that are closest, the matriarch, my mother, and the rest of us, that's where my energy needs to go into. And strengthening the relationships that we do have and making sure that as our kids grow up, they can look up to us and appreciate what they see and want to seek our mentorship.
yeah.
Because
I want to ask you guys, what's your relationship like with your stepfather, if you don't mind?
Non-existent.
yeah, he was abusive. He was a narcissist. He was a liar. He did prison time, came back with like Aryan supremacy, like SS tattoos and stuff. And he always glorified the criminal aspect. You don't talk to cops. Cops are the bad guys. And so I grew up thinking a life of crime is the life for me. And Joe had a big part of giving me that mindset. And so I made a lot of mistakes, and that man's to blame for it, man. Now he is in a VA hospital. Only half of his heart works. Every day that I wake up and there's not a obituary about that man, I'm surprised. But I don't think I would make the trip up to Dallas to go attend his funeral if they had one.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask that for a reason, right? Because by the time you guys see, or for the guys or the gals or whoever's listening to this in the car or wherever you may be, I would have released the episode on the Fatherhood Exclusive that I'm recording today, right? About the role of a stepfather, because I'm marketing the book Lead the Way, and a few guys, I'm like, are you a father? And they're like, not really. I'm like, what do you mean not really? And they're like, I'm a stepfather. And it pissed me off. I'm like, so you're telling me that your role isn't just as important? No, you stepped into the role. You fully accepted the role when you got married, right? When you understood and got into a relationship with someone who had children, you accepted that role, and that role is just as important. But a lot of stepfathers, I don't even like to use the word stepfather, but a lot of stepfathers or father figures don't take the role as seriously, don't take the responsibility as seriously. And kids start to go astray, and young men get paused from being fully developed mentally, psychologically, because stepfathers don't fulfill that role and they don't take it as serious. They're like, I'm just here because I'm just here. No, you accepted that role once you got into the relationship, and you have just as much impact as the biological father does, especially if the biological father is non-existent in the child's life. So if you're a stepfather listening to this, and I wanted to say this because it pissed me off, right? If you're a stepfather listening to this, please understand that your role is vital, and you can have just as much, if not more, impact on that child than the biological father. You still exist in that child's life for a reason and for a purpose. And if you're not pouring your all into that child or children, right, you're doing them a disservice, and you need to exit stage left. Because personally, if I was, and I don't even know their names, but if I was the wife, right, and I heard my husband say, I'm the father, not really, I would have been like, wait a minute. We didn't talk about that when we got married. That wasn't with this relationship. You understood that I had kids, and you told me that you were going to accept this role and yada, but I can see that you're not serious about it. I would have been like, you got to go, because my kids are important to me. So
those guys should watch this movie. And there's also a great song by Brad Paisley, Half the Man He Didn't Have to Be, about stepfather. But it's also a real thing where some mothers set that boundary where you are not the father of my children. That's a real thing that some mothers do when they're seeking a new suitor after going through divorce. And that's something that men have to navigate.
Absolutely.
But you're 100% right. And even though they've set up that boundary, doesn't mean that you can't step up anyway and walk that tightrope where you're not overstepping the boundaries that your lady has set, but at the same time, being a good example and being a mentor. And I think at the end of the day, those ladies who set that boundary more so don't want them to just be a punisher and just there to enforce. So don't let her handle that, and you be a dad, you know?
Yeah.
You be a mentor.
Absolutely.
Be somebody that they can look up to.
Yeah. Be Yondu. Because ultimately Yondu figured it out. He summed it up perfectly by later on in the movie. He says, he may have been your father, but he wasn't your daddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have another great song, Come a Little Bit Closer, by Jay and the Americans. Mantis, Ego's naive empath servant, grows close to Drax and warns him of Ego's plan. Gamora and Nebula also learn of the plan just as Rocket, Yondu, Groot, and Kraglin arrive. The United Guardians reach Ego's brain at the planet's core and fight the Sovereign's arriving drones. Rocket makes a bomb using the stolen batteries, which Groot plants on Ego's brain. Quill battles Ego with his newfound celestial powers in order to distract him enough to allow the Guardians and Mantis to escape. This synopsis really jumps ahead. There's a lot that happens before all of that. Ego using the song Brandy,
I think,
to connect with Quill and get him to buy into the plan.
Yeah, which is beautiful that he knows that Quill's connection to his mother is through that soundtrack, it's through that music.
Yeah.
So he uses it against him, right?
Yeah, very manipulative.
Relation.
Yeah. After you've had this scene where the Guardians fracture a little bit, Rocket and Quill have words before they split up, but then everybody's starting to pair up. Ego and Quill connect. Nebula and Gamora have this big battle, but then they start to connect. as they're discovering the bones of all of Peter's siblings. And at that same moment that they're discovering the bones, Peter gets his pineal gland milked by Ego. And then Yondu and Rocket have this connection. And there's that whole, I know you because I am you. Good stuff. Yondu is all about tough love. That's his form of mentorship. It's tough love, which I think our stepdad Joe attempted with us poorly.
Very.
But everybody's pairing up in this scene, and it's really good stuff. You have another great song, Bring It On Home to Me by Sam Cooke, one of my favorite songs.
Just going to touch on that. There's that little breakaway where he tries to woo her with a great song.
Yeah.
Which is funny because the song perfectly parallels, if you listen to the song, perfectly parallels him trying to woo a seemingly uninterested woman.
Yay.
Yeah.
So then when Ego admits to killing Quill's mother, Quill snaps. He snaps the fuck out of his galaxy eyes thing and just like you're dead.
I'm glad you said galaxy eyes. What's great about that is in the comics, what does he say? Eternity. The character Eternity is basically a silhouette of a person that just looks like galaxies and planets and stars and stuff. So it's almost like he's looking at the character Eternity.
So then the gang all kind of gets back together. They all get together in the ship and they put a plan together on the fly. The plan is to destroy Ego's brain. We're talking about great collaboration and adaptiveness. The Guardians, that's their strong suit. Collaboration and adapting to things as they happen. Rocket builds the bomb out of the Herpulary batteries.
Which is great writing, by the way.
Yeah.
It all starts with the batteries and it all ends with the batteries.
Now, here's my question. Why on the world would you put a blow up right now button on a bomb?
That's a great question.
It's not like they just found this bomb. Rocket built the bomb. Why did you put a detonate right now button on it? You know what I mean?
Maybe that's
Terrible.
like the plan Z. If he's going down, he's taking everyone down with him.
And you can't find some tape, so let's just take it apart and reassemble it without the damn blow up now button.
Yeah, he could have done that in the time it took for them to argue about who's got tape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was comedic gold in that scene, by the way.
Uh-huh. So when Ego wakes back up, everyone is paired up again. But this time, Peter's paired up with Yondu. And this is when it starts to get real good. The chain plays again when Peter learns to use his heart.
Yeah, he starts having flashbacks of his real family, the Guardians, and metaphorically reconnects those chains
Yeah.
to his family.
When it's desperate, when Ego is really at the peak of his strength, he's got everybody pinned down. Yondu says, I didn't use my brain to move the arrow. I used my heart. And that's when Peter goes, okay, I got it. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah, and it turns out Peter is really good whenever he uses his heart.
Yeah. So then Yondu says he's never done anything right and he needs to be the one to save Peter. And yeah, you have that whole welcome to the Guardians of the Galaxy scene with Rocket and Groot. Good stuff, man. And that's real, man. I have a checkered past. I understand that whole I've never done anything right kind of mentality and the need to make things right. I've been there. I get it. Certainly, if anything, with this whole podcast and all this brand building, if I'm doing anything, I'm trying to bury old mugshots. So if you Google Mark Caples, you don't see a mugshot. You know, I'm not that person anymore. And so I want people, when they do Google me, to see a positive impact on this world. And so I empathize with Yondu in this moment.
Yeah. Same.
Ego says, you're a god. If you kill me, you'll be just like everyone else. Quill says, what's wrong with that? And that also hits home. We don't have to be the Instagram world these days. You see the filters and you see everything that I've edited and put together. You don't see the warts. And so there's nothing wrong with being imperfect and being like everybody else and being flawed. And so that's a great message that this movie also drives home. Yondu sweeps in. There's that line, he may have been your father, but I'm your dad. And then he says, sorry. He apologizes, which is the testament of a real man, is the ability to admit, look, I made a mistake and I'm sorry.
It's the moment where he let go of his ego.
Yeah. And a lot of people, not just men, but a lot of men they can't admit when they've made a mistake, and you'll never get an apology out of them. And I have zero respect for men like that.
I think that's one of the things that makes a real man. If you want to talk about what a real man is, it's somebody who owns up to their mistakes, which is something that Joe taught me in spite of his horrible
inability to do the same.
Yeah. It's one thing that I actually took from him that he said was own up to your mistakes, which is hilariously ironic from him.
Yeah.
But it resonated with us.
It all boils down to, as a leader in general, not only as a man, as a father, but as a leader in general, your leadership of any entity, right? Whether it be your family, whether it be in your business, whether it be in your community, right? Whether it be on social media, impacting the world, your ability to impact is solely based on your ability to effectively communicate, right? If you can gather up the courage and the decency and the integrity to say, I was wrong, I'm sorry. There's a few things that you're communicating. You're communicating your awareness. You're communicating your emotional intelligence, right? You're communicating empathy. You communicate. There's a tons of things that you're communicating when you say that. And especially for those of y'all who are married, when you say, I was wrong, I swear to you, I lied to you not. Women, back me up here. There are a lot of things that goes on in their mind because they're like, okay, well, I don't even know how to respond to that because I was expecting you to run away with, no, I'm never wrong type of thing. So there are barriers and boundaries that get broken down when you're able to say, you know what, I was wrong. And then for yourself, you're able to further develop because now you have all of those skill sets. Like I said, emotional intelligence, things like that. It plays a vital role in your leadership. I promise you.
Yeah. At this point, you can turn that mistake, that wrong that you committed, into a learning opportunity. You can learn from it and improve yourself. And then you can mentor other people in hopes that they won't make the same mistakes. That's what the Hard Knock School of Project Management is all about. Look, I was put into a project management role without any formal training. I made 7 mistakes, and here's the mistakes, and here's how you can avoid them. Yeah. And that's as men, as fathers, that is our whole purpose. Is everybody makes mistakes. It's on us to make sure that the next generation learns from our mistakes so they can go out and make their own mistakes and not go and make the same mistakes that we made. Tread a new path, create your own path, make your own mistakes, and teach the next generation about them and my mistakes. That's fatherhood in a nutshell to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the bomb explodes, killing Ego and disintegrating the planet. Yondu sacrifices himself to save Quill, who realizes that the reason Yondu kept him was to spare him from the fate of Ego's other progeny, and that Yondu was Quill's true daddy. Having reconciled with Gamora, Nebula still chooses to leave and attempt to kill Thanos. The Guardians hold a funeral for Yondu, which is attended by dozens of Ravager ships, acknowledging Yondu's sacrifice and accepting him again as a Ravager.
Yeah.
Quill's cool dad eulogy is great. He used to always lie to people and say that David Hasselhoff was his dad because he was cool. But he realizes in this moment that he had a cool dad all along. Great eulogy. Nebula and Gamora have a sister moment before Gamora says, my way of helping all those young kids out is I'm going to go kill Thanos. I'm going to put an end to it. Setting up the events of Avengers Endgame. If you haven't yet, go back and watch our whole thing on Endgame and Thanos. It's really good.
Is given the Zoom that Yondu had.
The Zoom is funny.
And then he sits down and he listens to the last song played, and it's Father and Son by Cat Stevens.
Great song.
And again, it's beautiful for the moment.
The last, 7 events that we just talked about in the order of the series speak exactly to what I mentioned earlier when we talked about the impact that a stepfather or another father figure, bonus father, whatever you guys want to call it, can have if he steps into the role and fulfills it. Yondu stepped into it almost unwillingly because it just happened to pan out that way. Because
I was 100% willingly. He says to Rocket, I need this. I made a lot of mistakes and I need to be the one to go save Quill.
Yeah. But
and this is the song
when
he
it
was
first
listening
happened,
to.
and he didn't even know that Ego was doing that to the children. Once he found out, he didn't give them to him.
Yeah, I
That
got
was
you.
his way of, okay, I'm stepping into this role without even knowing that's how it was going to go at the end. Step into the role.
Yeah, 100%. I like that. Anybody else notice that whenever they cremate Yondu, he's still wearing the fin, but then the fin shows back up in the post-credit scene?
Yeah.
With Sean Gunn.
Interesting.
Oh,
Yeah.
damn.
I noticed
But no,
that.
the Zoom is super funny because it's dead technology. Who has a Zoom anymore? They could have had an iPod, but no, they gave him a Zoom. It's hilarious.
Yeah, that's facts.
But Yondu gets his Ravager funeral. That's great. In a series of mid and post-credit scenes, Kraglin takes up Yondu's telekinetic arrow and controls the fin. Ravager leader Stakar Ogord, played by Sylvester Stallone, reunites with his ex-teammates. Aisha creates a new artificial being with whom she plans to destroy the Guardians, naming him Adam. So this is Adam Warlock, who shows up in the third movie. We got to have you back for the third movie, and we'll talk about Adam Warlock. I think they could have done a better job with that, but hey, what do I know? Groot starts growing back to normal size, exhibiting typical teenage behavior in the process, while a group of uninterested watchers listen to their informant discussing several experiences on Earth. That being Stan Lee. I liked that. And my headcanon is the Stan Lee show up in a short cameo in all of the movies.
All of them.
I like the idea that he was like one of these watchers and was just there attending. And then he's sharing his stories with the other watchers who are mostly not interested. You know?
So it's rumored that Stanley, I don't think this was ever confirmed, but apparently there's a character in the comics that is like the one above all or something like that. And I think that the implication is that's who Stan Lee plays in the movies.
Yeah.
And that's why he can be everywhere all at the same time. Because if you notice in that scene where they're jumping through 700 jumps and they pass by him talking to the watchers, he's explaining something that hasn't happened yet.
I didn't catch that.
Because the Guardians of the Galaxy movie is back in time from...
So going back to our leadership and project management profiles that I've built on everybody. Again, Peter's, the Guardians saying they've got this consultancy that leverages diverse talents to solve complex problems. Ego is out to establish a monopolistic enterprise aiming to homogenize markets under one brand. Yondu is a reformed child trafficker that's running essentially a mentorship program for at-risk youth, focusing on skill development and resilience.
No.
A little bit. Not even a little bit. And then Aisha is creating a luxury brand that markets exclusivity and flawlessness. So let's start with our main villain, Ego. He's got this autocratic and manipulative leadership style where he's this visionary that is a fault. I've tied a couple of lessons to Ego from my book, The Hard Knock School of Project Management. Number 2, you'll rarely have all the answers. Ego acts like he has every answer and he never listens. And that kind of arrogance literally can destroy planets. Number 3, sometimes you're the bad guy. He's the textbook example. He's dressed as a mentor, but he's driven by control. And his refusal to acknowledge fault becomes his downfall. And number 7, the best plans will still fall apart. His grand plan fails because he never accounted for people's individualism, and especially his own sons. And he had this big vision, but really no contingency plan. The hashtag hard knock lesson is vision without humility is a ticking time bomb. And I've given him a 1 on a scale from 1 to 5 on his PM leadership score.
Yeah, I agree. For sure.
Ego? I gave him a little bit more than that. For project management, I gave him a 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's charming and charismatic, which is essential, I think, except doesn't build relationships off trust.
Which is big.
Super, super manipulative.
Yeah.
So more in the middle. If he could just align his ethics.
No.
Yeah.
What about you, Jay?
I think from the jump, he just started off in the wrong direction and never stopped going in the wrong direction. So that's why I agree with Mark on the 1, because his intentions from the very beginning were flawed. And saw himself as perfect, but didn't see how flawed his vision was, didn't see how flawed his plan was.
At the very beginning of this, I I compared him to the Third Reich.
Yeah.
So it's not getting any more than a 1 from me. He didn't get a 0. Then we have Yondu. His leadership style is rough around the edges. He's protective and he's loyal to a fault. I have 3 lessons from my book, The Hard Knock School of Project Management, that relate to Yondu. Number 3, again, sometimes you're the bad guy. He played the villain to protect Peter, not to harm him. And that's leadership, man, that being misunderstood while doing the right thing. Number 4, most of your time is spent managing people, not tasks. Yondu's biggest wins come not from what he does, but from how he leads others. And he learns a hard lesson the hard way when he fails to get buy-in from his crew and has to deal with a mutiny. But his final act is pure selfless service and sacrifice.
Which is a huge topic in this movie. And it's huge in real life. Remember the scene where Ego's pretty much burying everybody alive in his own matter, and Drax is holding up, what's her name?
Mantis.
She's sacrificing himself for her.
Even though she's ugly.
Yeah, it's a great dynamic between those two.
What are you doing? I'm imagining myself being intimate with you.
And then, of course, undo sacrificing. Sacrifice is huge. Sacrifice is just big to me. Sacrifice is essential. Yesterday, I sacrificed my back for about an hour straight just trying to get my daughter to go to sleep. You know what I mean? We have to sacrifice sleep. We have to sacrifice our bodies. Sacrifice is huge, man. And if you're not willing to make the sacrifice, then it's probably because of your ego.
Yeah. Yeah. Then I've also got from my book, number 5, success often goes unnoticed. Yondu doesn't get any applause until it's time for his funeral.
Yeah.
But his impact at the end of the day was massive because of that sacrifice that he made. The hashtag hard knock lesson is real leaders don't chase credit. They chase legacy. I've given Yondu a 4.5 on the PM leadership matrix.
Yeah, I got 3.5 for all of those reasons.
Hold up. You gave Ego a 3 and you're only giving Yondu a 3.5?
I'm realizing the flaws now. Okay? No need to call me out for entertainment purposes, Mark. But no, Yondu, his biggest attribute is that he pivots. He learned. He grew. Right. You must love him coming from the Hard Knock University, because he did exactly what you want people to do, is take the dude trafficked children and ultimately got redemption in his Ravager funeral.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
It is.
It's like you can do atrocities, and if you learn and grow, you deserve the applause.
And he mentors through tough love, which that speaks to me. I'm a tough love kind of guy. I think I'm hard on my nephews, and it's not that I don't love them. I'm just tough about it.
I think that's relatable to the majority of people.
Yeah.
Men, at least.
I give him a 4. And the only reason I sit in between, pause, is because though he did grow, though he did develop, not only as a leader, but his own character, he still struggled and wrestled. I don't like to use the word struggle, but he wrestled and was challenged with his principles when it comes to ethics. There were still, even though he was doing things for what he may see as the right reason, and most of it was the right reason, there's still decisions that he didn't weigh out the lasting outcome of. So I give him a 4.
That's fair.
Yeah, risk management, right?
Yeah, at the end of the day, he went through a mutiny with his team.
Yeah.
You know, but he didn't set up, he didn't tell them the plan. He blindsided them with the plan. What do you mean we're not taking them back to Aisha? You know what I mean? So he didn't get any buy-in from his team. So he still had a little bit to learn about leadership, but he's definitely got a lot of character development there. And he does learn from his mistakes. And had he lived, he certainly would have been a better leader going forward.
I was just about to say that. A little more time and he would have been on it.
100%. Then we have Aisha, the high priestess of the sovereign. Her leadership style, she's a perfectionist, hierarchical, image obsessed. I have 3 lessons from the Hard Knock School of Project Management that relate to her. Number 1, you're always uncomfortable. But Aisha refuses discomfort. Any deviation from perfection offends her. And that kind of rigidity costs her control of the mission. Number 6, you're a translator for everyone and everything. That's something that Aisha also fails at. She doesn't translate needs. She dictates them. And she has no empathy, no buy-in, and gets no results. Then number 7, the best plans will still fall apart. Her drone army gets fried by a raccoon in a baby tree, and she doesn't pivot. She pouts.
Yeah.
The hashtag hard knock lesson, perfect plans crumble fast when you ignore the people executing them. I've given her a 2 on the PM leadership matrix.
I didn't rate her, but yeah, she's horrible.
Yeah.
Shit. If I gave Ego a 3, she's got to be there or lesser. She's very similar to Ego in that she's got that ego, right?
100%.
I'm trying to think of good attributes, and I can't.
She's pretty.
Determination.
Her contacts, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. I give her a 1.5. Yeah. I think the only key difference between her and Ego is that Ego was alone.
She had the whole planet of that's the problem with these royalty leaders is that you don't necessarily have buy-in, people believing in the mission so much as you have servants that just have to obey.
Yeah, blind following.
Yeah. Then we got Peter, Star-Lord. His leadership style, he's chaotic good. He's collaborative. He's improvisational. And mission first. It's all about the mission. The very beginning. I actually agree with Drax. This is not a good time for music, Rocket. Let's focus on the Space Dragon. I have 3 lessons that I tied in from the Hard Knock School of Project Management. Number 1, you're always uncomfortable. Peter doesn't wait for perfect conditions. He leads in the chaos, from the alien interstellar dragon attacks to ego battles, literally. And he proves that discomfort is the norm, not the problem, and that you can surf that chaos and still be effective. Number 4, most of your time is spent managing people, not tasks. Herding the Guardians is like herding cats. It's running a project with a grenade for Gantt chart. But he fails to set clear roles, and that's a struggle that the Guardians deal with at times. But his success really comes from people wrangling, not from having perfect plans. And then number 7, the best plans will still fall apart. Ego's planet collapses, and so does Peter's understanding of his own identity, in a sense.
Yeah.
But he adjusts and he leads anyway. He's very agile in the face of failure, and he saves the galaxy again. The hashtag hard knock lesson, the best leaders don't wait for order. They make it out of chaos. I've given him a 4 on my PM leadership matrix.
He gets 3.5 from me, and here's why. He's emotionally intelligent, sure. He cares, which is big, but you said earlier, which is perfect, that he leads in the chaos very well. It's really true for all of the Guardians. In the chaos, they improvise a solution very well. The problem is that I think this is how I relate to Peter Quill, aka Star-Lord, in real life and in project management and leadership, is that he waits until the chaos happens to step up and lead well. You know what I'm saying? He's a free spirit. Like, he just goes with the flow. And a good leader and a good project manager, correct me if I'm wrong,
Is a little more proactive.
strategic. He
Yeah.
laid out a plan. He's got constituencies. Thank you for teaching me that last podcast. So
Yeah.
he gets a 3.5.
All right. Jay?
Yeah, I would agree. 3.5. I would agree. For all the reasons you said, and I think he still have a lot of development to go in this particular movie, part 2. I think he has a lot of leadership development that he has left on the table.
And we
For
certainly
one, I
see
don't
that
think he
in the
can-
next movie, Endgame, when he fumbles the whole plan to get the glove from Thanos.
Yeah.
But where's Gamora? Where's Gamora?
He's immature.
Yeah.
He's impulsive.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I was going with it. I think he has some decision-making abilities that don't align with, even though he's all about the mission, his decision-making abilities don't align with the mission. But I think he still has a lot of room to grow on that aspect.
Yeah, I agree. Good stuff. All right. Now we have our fatherhood face-off. Ego versus Yondu. So Ego is the biological father who seeks to use Quill as a means to an end. He lacks genuine emotional connection or even concern for Quill's well-being, for that matter. Then you have Yondu, who abducted Quill but chose to raise him and protect him. And he uses tough love and ultimately sacrifices himself for Quill. My favorite thing about Yondu is that he doesn't hide from his past. He embraces his mistakes as lessons, and he learns from them, and he mentors in his own way using tough love. That connects with me. I've given Ego a 1 on fatherhood, and I've given Yondu a 5.
Yeah.
So Yondu gets a 4.5 for me because a little rough around the edges, right? But ultimately grows. Ego's horrible. He gets half a point.
Yep.
Who else did you do?
Just the 2. We have just the 2 fathers. It's a face-off.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yondu smokes Ego on that.
Yeah. Jay?
Yeah, I give Ego a 0 because his intention was never to be a father. His intention was to use that to carry out his plan. It wasn't an intention to raise a child or love a child even. His intention was to initiate a sacrifice for his diabolical plan. And so I give him a 0. I give Yondu a 4 because even though, like I said before, his overall mindset and his overall way of doing things needs some work, or needed since he passed. But I think even though he had his heart in the right place, his mind didn't align with it. He had some things that I wouldn't teach my kids any of the things that he was teaching the kids. I think there was a different way to show him the way. But yeah, I give him a solid 4.
Rock and roll. For final thoughts, I want to go back to what I said about Yondu, that he doesn't hide from his past and he embraces his mistakes and uses them as learning opportunities and even mentors in his own way. That really resonates with me. And then additionally, the Guardians, again, are this ragtag group of misfits. You have the Sovereign and you have Ego. They're all about perfection. And I dig the misfit crew approach.
Yeah.
We're all trying to build teams and playing the cards that we're dealt. And it can oftentimes on a construction site, in a boardroom, or even in your own living room, feel like you're just dealing with a ragtag group of nobodies who are just doing their best. And that connects with me. Seth, you got any final thoughts?
No, but I have some fun music facts. If y'all
Hit
don't
us.
mind. I got a music podcast in the works, so I'm trying to flex that muscle a little bit. I mentioned that Tyler Bates did the music for this movie. He's a musician, producer, and composer. He has worked on movies such as Dawn of the Dead. He worked with Zack Snyder in 300. He's worked with Rob Zombie in the remake of Halloween and Halloween 2. Rob Zombie, by the way, is credited in this movie as a unseen Ravager.
Oh,
Yeah, I think that whenever Rocket, there's 2 guys on either side of Rocket, and Rocket takes out the other one and then does the backflip and lands on the other one. And you don't really see the guy's head, but Rocket I'm pretty sure that's Rob Zombie.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't dig into where he was. I saw unseen and was like, oh.
Yeah, they're never
wasn't
on
him.
his face long enough to be like, that's Rob Zombie.
Yeah.
What else do I got here? I'm all over the place with my...
Let's talk a little bit about that Cat Stevens song.
Shoot. It's perfect for fatherhood.
You did the deep dive. Talk to us.
Oh, I didn't want to get too off the beaten path of the topic, so I just wrote down where the songs were and then what the song was about and how it ties into the movie. And with the father-son movie, what I can tell you is that with the father-son song by Cat Stevens, I can tell you that it's perfect for the moment of the Ravager funeral, because there's this moment where they do close-ups of each individual guardian, and the lyrics in the song are the very end of the song, and it's something like, now it's time to go, or something like that, which is basically symbolizing a father letting go of his son. And that's exactly what Peter Quill is doing. He's letting go of his father, who just sacrificed himself for him and the rest of his family, for that matter.
reading from the Wikipedia page, Father and Son is a popular song written and performed by English singer-songwriter Cat Stevens on his 1970 album Tea for the Tillerman. The song frames a heartbreaking exchange between a father not understanding a son's desire to break away and shape a new life, and a son who cannot really explain himself, but knows that it is time for him to seek his own destiny. Stevens sings in a deeper register for the father's line while using a higher one for those of the son. Additionally, there are backing vocals provided by Stevens' guitarist and friend Alan Davies, beginning mid-song, singing an unusual chorus of simple refrains. In 2021, it was listed as number 408 on Rolling Stone's top 500 best songs of all time.
Really great use of music in this movie. James Gunn's phenomenal. I think he's going to do great with this upcoming Superman movie. I only have a few other things. Richard Christie is the drummer for the heavy metal band Death. He cameos as a Ravager. He's like in the scene where Rocket and Yondu are escaping to go save Peter, and they get in that battle with all the Ravagers. He's like up on a bridge and he sees them walking and he goes, "Down there." He's even credited in the credits as "Down there." And then James Gunn wanted David Bowie to cameo in this movie, but he passed away. It's fun to wonder what character would he have played. You know what I mean? Quill's father or Quill's stepfather, or just I wonder. And then the last fun fact is that Miley Cyrus does a vocal cameo as Mainframe in the mid-credit scene.
Okay. I found this great quote from Cat Stevens. He was doing a Rolling Stone interview, and he said, "Some people think that I was taking the son's side, but how could I have sung the father's side if I couldn't have understood it too? I was listening to that song recently, and I heard one line and realized that was my father's father speaking."
Wow. That dude's on drugs. What? How many fathers is that? How would he know? What?
8. So it would be the great
what does he mean by that?
grandfather. It's generational.
A father was a son at one time. So if it's a yin and yang, not really yin and yang. What am I saying here? You can't have one without the other.
Yeah. But I think the idea is that it's generational and that it's something that's passed down, and it's not just a father and a son. It's all fathers and all sons.
That's legacy. That's what you touched on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Speaking of legacy, Mike Tyson thinks legacy is BS.
Yeah. He said that
You're
when
gonna die.
he
What's the
fought
matter?
Jake Paul.
What's the matter? You're going to die.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
Yeah. That's basically what he's doing, is he's taking on all these exhibition fights, even though he has no business in a ring anymore, because they pay really well, and he can pass that down to his children. And at the end of the day, what is that if not legacy?
Thank you for saying. That's what Mike says, is that legacy doesn't matter to me because it's not real. What matters to me is my children.
He's setting up his children to build their own legacy by
children-
sacrificing his legacy in the ring.
Children is his legacy, though, right?
100%. 100%. We should in there, but we're not. Jay, what do you got for final thoughts?
Just to touch on that real quick, I think so many times we think legacy means either something financial or something material, or even directly our children. But what I like to think is legacy is, what do people think about? What will my, like you said, the 8 grandchildren or great whatever, what is somebody's first thought when they think of my name? What is somebody's first thought when they think of my impact and my existence? That's what I think of when I think legacy. So it's not necessarily, for me, it's not necessarily what I can provide for someone or what I can give to someone, but rather, what have I done to impact them? Have I touched them in a way that leaves a lasting impact on their life? Or even legacy can go the opposite way too. Is your legacy something that you did negative to someone that burned the bridge? You know what I mean? So I think Mike was speaking with no intelligence when he said that. I think it was something that a viral moment maybe, or something that he was emotionally caught up in his feelings and couldn't articulate what he truly meant. But absolutely, legacy matters. Legacy always matters, because you're not the person that's going to be impacted by your own legacy. You know what I mean? Your legacy is thought of way after you're gone, just like Yondu. His legacy is that he developed himself as a leader and as a father or father figure throughout his time. That's his legacy. His legacy is leadership and sacrifice, not necessarily the single act that cost him his life, but the development that led up to that is his legacy. And that's what people are going to think about for generations after he's gone. Granted, it's a movie, but that's the same principle. And for final thoughts, I just want to say happy Father's Day to all the fathers, all the father figures, all the men, because whether you know it or not, you're a father figure to somebody. And I wanted to throw that out there because I remember watching, because I didn't have my own father in my life when I was younger. I remember watching my guidance counselor. I remember watching my third grade teacher and how he walked and how he presented himself, how he was a fitness enthusiast, if you will. So I watched how he walked with pride, with his chest held high, and he was buff. So I was like, people respect him because of how he presents himself. So I paid attention to that. So you're always leaving an impact on somebody in some way. Therefore, you are always some type of father figure, whether you know it or not. So it behooves you to present yourself as such and develop yourself as a leader and someone who has dignity, respect for yourself, respect for others, integrity, right? And work in diligence in all tasks and duties. And then also go to the fatherhoodexclusive.com and buy Lead the Way, 20 Principles Fathers Must Adopt to Effectively Lead the Family. And I promise you, it will change your life and your family's life.
100%. The great and powerful Jay Burke. Thank you so much. Everybody go check out on YouTube and anywhere where podcasts are streamed, the Fatherhood Exclusive Podcast. Go pick up the book and keep following Jay's journey, because this man's going to do great things. He's already making an impact on my life. And I hope that in sharing Jay with the world, he'll make an impact on yours too. Good night, everybody. You know what I love about our sponsor this season, SMG Academy? Listen, 20-year veteran Mark Sebi is just spilling the beans for members like me on industry secrets most people guard with their lives. I was just reading this article on the SMG blog spot the other day, 10 ways to leverage podcasting to boost your music career. And it's packed with real usable tactics, from sharing behind the scenes content and promoting your music to monetizing your podcast with platforms like hero.fm, offering exclusive merch and building an email list that actually converts. This stuff is gold. He even breaks down how to use podcast analytics to grow your audience and drive traffic to your tour dates, music drops, or merch store. Look, if you're a musician trying to grow your brand off stage, podcasting is your secret weapon, and SMG Academy is the place to learn how to do it. Visit smgacademy.online and use promo code HKU2025 for 15% off of your enrollment. SMG Academy, where hustle meets harmony.
Flip the pages, take a peek. It's time to dive in every week. Hard knock, you got brains on fleek. Book of the week.
All right, y'all, this week's book of the week is a special one. Not just because it's full of wisdom, but because it was written by a good friend of mine and a guest on today's show, Jayvon Burke. The book is called Lead the Way, 20 Principles Fathers Must Adopt to Effectively Lead the Family. And let me tell you, this one hits different. Look, when I first became a father, I read a bunch of books on fatherhood. And I noticed that they all had this one thing in common. Some version of learn from your dad. But here's the thing. I didn't have a dad to learn from. And neither did Jay. So what do you do when there's no blueprint, no manual, no model? Well, you write your own. And that's exactly what Jayvon Burke has done here. This book isn't a recycled take on fatherhood. It's a breath of fresh air. Each of the 20 principles in Lead the Way tackles a specific aspect of what it means to lead your family, from communication and discipline to vision and values. And what I really love is the way Jay breaks it down. Every chapter gives you two examples: a hypothetical father who's kind of missing the mark, and one who gets it right. It's not about shame and it's not about clarity so much as it's about seeing the difference that intentional fatherhood makes in real time. And what sets this book apart is the tone. Jay doesn't preach, he invites. It's a conversation. He shares his hard-earned lessons from his own life, including growing up without a father, becoming a dad at 14, and learning to lead a household with love and integrity and purpose. Lead the Way is honest, it's actionable, and it's rooted in real life. It's not theory, it's a battle plan. If you're a dad, a stepdad, a mentor, or just someone who wants to lead with more purpose, this book will meet you where you're at and help you rise. So do yourself and your family a favor, grab the book, highlight it, dog-ear the pages, talk about it with your brothers, because Lead the Way isn't just a book. It's a tool for building a legacy. I'm Mark Caples. This is the Hard Knock University podcast, and I'm rooting for you. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. Glad to have you all here. I'm going to open up a little bit. It's Father's Day, and we're talking dads. We're talking fatherhood. Almost 4 years ago, my biological father passed away. I hadn't seen or spoken to him since I was just, a very young child. Our lives had drifted so far apart that when his obituary was published, my name wasn't even mentioned. I wasn't invited to the funeral, and the distance between us wasn't just miles. It was years of silence, separation, and choices made long before his actual death. And then last week, my stepdad died. And truthfully, I was closer to him than my biological father, but that doesn't mean we were close. Our relationship was complicated. It was tangled up in years of abuse, manipulation, and lies that never really stopped. And even as the years piled up, we never really healed that. And so for my own well-being, I kept a healthy distance. Sometimes that distance was emotional, and sometimes it was geographical, but it was necessary. In his final years, his body broke down from years of hard living. He ended up severely ill and living in a VA hospital in North Dallas. And a few weeks before his death, he sent me a text message. It's kind of his version of an olive branch, or maybe a last attempt at something. I don't know. I didn't respond, not because I was angry, not because I wanted to punish him or anything, but because some conversations just feel like trying to rebuild a house that's already burnt to the ground. The message was hard to read. It was this garbled mess from a voice to text attempt that just struggled to keep up with his failing health. But beneath the broken syntax, I could kind of piece together the gist. I've translated it and posted it here. Quote, "Every now and then when I see you play guitar, it surprises me, shocks me even. You've grown into such a great young man. You've got a beautiful life. I hope it all continues for you. I'm proud of you. Sometimes I forget your face. My mind's all screwed up. I know you've had to deal with some of my bullshit, and I've tried to keep the majority of my bullshit away from you. Hopefully you'll be able to sort it all out one day and find some good memories in there. Just know how much I love you. You've always been the one who stood out. You're super smart. You've got a drive like no other. I love hearing from you. Right now I'm at the VA hospital in North Dallas. I'm in the paraplegic assessment area. Might end up out of state for treatment. I don't have Tammy here with me. We built a house together in Waxahachie. We even rescued 2 dogs. Back on Super Bowl Sunday 2024, I got Guillain-Barré syndrome. It put me on a ventilator. Since March, I've been fighting infections and pneumonia. I'm tired, fighting hard not to lose my fight. End quote. But the thing about Joe was he lied a lot. It was hard to know what, if anything, in that message was true. The dogs, the house, the girlfriend, even the diagnosis. Who knows? And that was always the exhausting part. You know, you never really knew where the truth ended and the fiction began. And that makes closure complicated. After his death last week, it felt familiar, an echo of my biological father's passing. You know, no mention of me in the obituary, no invitation to the funeral. It was just like before. And, you know, I wasn't particularly close to either one. Truth be told, I've spent most of my life figuring out how not to follow in their footsteps. Both men, in their own ways, handed me blueprints for how not to live. They taught me, you know, unintentionally through absence, through dysfunction, and through dishonesty. But today, I stand here with Father's Day swiftly approaching, you know, a holiday that has always left a bittersweet taste in my mouth, with something that I am proud of. I am a way better father than I ever had. And let me be clear, that's not bitterness. That's not a grudge. It's just simply the reality for a lot of guys like me. Some people grow up with great examples to follow. Others grow up with cautionary tales that serve as constant reminders of what not to become. And both can fuel you if you let them. The key is, you know, what you do with it. For years, I tried to outrun the pain. I tried to compartmentalize the lies, the betrayals, and the disappointments. I thought if I could just stay busy enough, you know, build a business, chase success, master my craft, maybe I could leave it all behind me. But you don't outrun that stuff. You carry it until you face it. So eventually I learned that running from the past doesn't heal anything, and that avoiding the truth only makes it fester. So the only way forward is through, to look at it all, even when it hurts, even when you don't like what you see, strip away the lies and confront it with honesty. Because when you're honest about where you come from, you give yourself the freedom to choose something better for where you're going. That's why I parent differently. I don't pretend that I have all the answers. I don't pretend like I'm flawless. I refuse to repeat the pattern of silence, of pretending everything's fine when it's not. If I had one piece of advice to give to the dads out there today, it's this. Talk to your kids. And when I say that, I'm not talking about, you know, where you go, hey, sweetheart, you can talk to me about anything, anytime. That's not what I'm talking about. Your kid just nods and goes, okay, Dad, and then never brings up anything real. Because why would they? You didn't actually give them anything to grab onto. You handed them a permission slip with no instructions, no map, no real sense of safety. It's not talking. It's not connection. It's just noise filling the silence. Just a vague permission slip. If you want your kids to open up, you have to go first. You have to crack the door open and show them what it looks like to have a real conversation. And I don't mean sitting them down for some dramatic, heavy life lesson speech. I mean being real, day in and day out. Letting them see you as a full, flawed human being who made mistakes, who's still figuring it out, who's fought through their own dark corners of this world. Tell them the stories that you've carried with you, the ones that embarrassed you, humbled you, knocked you flat on your ass. not the ones that paint you as the hero of your own story and lionize yourself in their eyes. Tell them about the moments that you felt small, that you felt scared or overwhelmed. Share the regrets that you carry and the lessons those regrets taught you. Because here's the truth. Your kids aren't looking for a perfect dad. They're looking for a present dad, one that they can relate to, one who feels safe, one who admits when life is hard, when emotions are messy, and when answers aren't easy. Someone who's honest. When you go first, when you show them what vulnerability really looks like, you build trust. You lay the groundwork. And only then will your kid feel safe enough to say, hey, Dad, can I tell you something that I've been kind of scared to talk about? And that right there is when the real parenting starts. So go out there and tell them about being broke as hell when you were 22. Tell them about getting dumped. Tell them about when your friends had parties and didn't invite you and how that made you feel. Tell them about missing cut. Tell them about messing up at work and getting embarrassed and having doubts and failing and learning the hard way. Tell them what scared you when you were their age. Tell them about what scares you today. And tell them about how that stuff made you feel. Your kids are experiencing tough emotions all the time and they don't know what to do with them. And if you don't help them to understand how normal those emotions are and how much experience that you have with feeling those same emotions, they'll feel embarrassed and ashamed. They'll be afraid to tell you how they feel. Because when they hear your stories, they stop seeing you as this flawless, untouchable adult who just wouldn't understand. Instead, they start seeing you as someone who's been there, someone who does understand, someone who's battle-tested, someone safe. And that is where the real conversations start. By all means, tell them about the wins, absolutely. Show them what hard work, sacrifice, and grit can actually build. Let them see the mountaintops you've climbed, but don't only tell them about the wins, because the lessons are in the losses. Tell them about the times you failed, the times you were scared, the moments that you had no clue what to do next. Tell them about the business deal that went sideways, the relationship you messed up, the regret that still keeps you up sometimes. Those are the moments that they're going to remember when they're standing in front of their own fork in the road. When you only share the highlight reel, they start to think that they're broken for struggling. They feel alone in their mistakes. But when you share the full reel, the bruises, the face plants, the comeback stories, you give them permission to be human. The world is loud right now, loud and fake. Social media is raising your kids whether you want it to or not. They're constantly bombarded with information, misinformation, anxiety, identity crisis, and every dumb influencer flexing like they've got life mastered by 19 years old. Most of it's curated garbage, and your kids know it, but it still messes with their heads. Your voice won't cut through that noise unless it's authentic. So don't be the dad who only talks when they mess up. Be the dad who talks before they mess up. Be the dad who shares the hard-earned lessons before they even know they'll need them. Be the dad who creates the kind of space where they don't have to carry their shame and their failures or their fears alone. That's real leadership. That's Hard Knock University fatherhood. So this Father's Day, I raise a glass to all of the dads who are figuring it out as they go. To the dads who don't have a playbook handed down from some perfect father figure. To the dads who are out here building the blueprint from scratch, learning in real time, stumbling sometimes, but showing up anyway. To the dads who lead with honesty instead of lectures. To the dads who open up so that their kids feel safe to open up too. To the dads who aren't afraid to admit, I don't always know, but I'm here and we'll figure it out together. And I especially want to toast the dads who never really had a dad. Or maybe they had one, but not the kind with heroic stories to tell. Or maybe they heard plenty of heroic stories, but when you pull back the curtain, those stories start to smell a lot like ego, exaggeration, and flat out bullshit. So those dads who had to separate myth from truth to sort out through the wreckage and figure out what pieces were worth keeping and what needed to die with the last generation. Because that's not easy work. That's the kind of work that breaks cycles. It's the kind of work that changes bloodlines. That's the kind of work that turns hard knocks into hard-won wisdom. So here's to you, the dads who face the hard stuff, who fight for something better, who choose honesty over image, who give your kids what you never had. That's Hard Knock University fatherhood. I'm rooting for you.